Hello, welcome to One to One. I'm Cheryl McCarthy. According to a Gallup poll conducted last year, fewer than half of Americans say they have a great deal of confidence in the police, while a majority say they believe police treat Black people less fairly than others. Is this anything new? And what, if anything, about the way police do their job is likely to change? Dr. Alfred Titus is a retired New York City Police Department hostage negotiator and homicide detective and a professor at John Jay College. He's also Black, and he offers his own perspective about the current state of policing. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The last few years have been hard on cops. The Black Lives Movement has stirred up a lot of public outrage over a number of prominent cases where Black people were killed unnecessarily by police officers, and the movement has demanded that this stop. As a former cop who happens to be Black, what's your reaction to this movement?
The Black Lives Matter movement was necessary to kind of correct a lot of the wrongs that existed in policing. And I think the attention from protests in general, from community outrage and organizations like Black Lives Matter has spurred a lot of the positive changes that we've seen in policing. And it's an important element. The community is always an important element of policing. And even though it may not seem that way to everyone, Black Lives Matter represents the community because that's what New York is.
I think that's a great title, because I so often felt in covering, watching some of the exchanges, unfortunate exchanges that went on between people of color and police, it seemed that Black lives did not matter. And I think it's important that the movement says that they do.
Yes.
Now, police violence against people of color, especially Black males in particular, is nothing new. I mean, it's been going on for years. And it seems that really the only reason it's being brought to life now is because there are videos. There are both police body cams, and there are civilians who are out there capturing these interactions on their cell phones. Absolutely. And I sort of wonder if they were not out there, if you didn't have these videos, you didn't have the smartphones, a lot of this would be going on and not brought to public attention.
I'll be honest with you. As an African-American male, I grew up in a tough community in Queens, South Jamaica, Queens, and I've had interactions with the police, and they have not all been pleasant. However, thankfully, we do have video and things like that now changes the whole dynamic of policing and community interaction. But there are other elements as well that are changing, that needed to change, that are part of what's happening now. But absolutely, if we did not have the cameras, there would possibly be things that are going on that we would not know about.
Systemic racism within police departments is also nothing new. I mean, in terms of who gets stopped, searched, arrested, whose home gets broken into in search, who gets charged with what crimes, and so forth. And there have been federal and local investigations of police departments, federal monitoring in a number of cities. I don't know if New York is under being monitored right now. And there are periodic calls for reforms. So why do these kinds of really negative interactions continue?
Well, policing is going through a transition right now. Traditional policing, where the police department reacts with the community a certain way, that is changing. So as change occurs, these conflicts happen, and but the conflicts are necessary, and the protests are necessary to make change happen.
I was reading a New York Times article. It was about, I guess, a Times investigation about a year ago. They went through police records, department records, going back 20 years, and found that the and this is a ongoing complaint, that the NYPD has routinely ignored, overruled, or downgraded punishments that were recommended by the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and that pattern has continued largely unchanged under Mayor de Blasio. Why is the NYPD not doing more to punish police misconduct? Do you think they should be doing more?
They absolutely should be doing more. As in fact, every police department in the country should be taking disciplinary action towards officers that need discipline. Um, you know, the policing, see, how can I say this? Policing is somewhat of a old institution that kind of that and there are certain traditions that exist within that police department, within police department in general, policing in general, and those things are changing. And that's what I tell a lot of my students. Now is a great time to get into policing because what we know policing to have been in the past is changing.
How's it changing? What are some of the changes?
There are changes in the whole makeup of policing. We have more minorities. We have minorities getting into positions where they can make a difference. And why is that important? It's important because the community consists of these minorities. You need to have people that understand what is going on in the communities, making strategies and policies to address the negative issues in the community. And that's one of the major things that is changing. What I hope changes in addition to that would be the recruitment, the testing. I would love to see them add more psychological evaluation. There are multiple different areas that need to be enhanced in what currently exists. But I feel that with the new mayor and the new police commissioner coming on, that could possibly happen.
Are police officers required to have college degrees now?
They are required to have 2 years of college.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I've taught journalism for a number of years, and one thing I'd be interested in what you tell your students about cops. One of the things that I told my students about cops is that you cannot always, for instance, I had a student who had gone on what used to be police ride-alongs. Students would ride along with cops and on the ship and observe, what a police officer does. I think this was in the Bronx. And she came back and she wrote a story in which she quoted the police officer saying, well, sort of dismissively about the people in the community, because he said, like 80, they don't care, 80% of them on welfare anyway. She put this quote in her story, and I said, well, how does he know? How does he know? How can you quote him without checking it out? And she went and checked it out against census data. I knew there could not have been 80% of residents in the community on welfare, and she found out it was actually 18%. And that's a big difference.
That's a huge difference.
My point being, you have a significant number of cops who are rather hostile towards the people and have negative views of the people they police.
Absolutely.
And that has a lot of repercussions.
Absolutely.
You have been quoted as saying that there's a difference between policing and law enforcement. What is that difference?
Okay, well, there is a big difference. Law enforcement is just strictly enforcing the law. Policing means that you are part of the community. It means that you interact with the community. You are more than just the law enforcement entity that comes in and addresses crime. You are also a place that people can go to, if they need like a safe haven, they should be able to go to the precinct. If there should be someone that makes them feel safe that's in their community, like a regular beat cop or something like that. So policing means that it involves the community, basically, whereas law enforcement is just strictly enforcing the law.
One of the things that has come out of the Black Lives Matter movement is a call for redistributing the money that's paid for law enforcement activities, moving some of it from the police department, moving some duties from the police department, like responding to mentally ill people, but also moving some of the funds from the police departments to social programs. How do you feel about those proposals?
I understand the need for more funding in the social programs that exist in the city. I do. I do not feel removing funds from policing is the way to address the issue. As you can see, crime has gone up. We need the funding in policing to enhance training, resources, all of those types of things. But there also needs to be money in those programs. So it's like a catch-22 situation. But defunding the police is absolutely not the solution.
The attitude towards the police department is sort of like the attitude towards public schools. It's always calls for reform, 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 and then you have reforms, and then they didn't work, so we're doing other reforms. Have you seen, what reforms have you seen that you feel have worked, have been successful?
Well, I like the reforms involved with removing chokeholds and chest compressions and things like that. I'm all for that. However, but at the same time, I understand that when you have a violent offender and you're struggling with this individual, it's life and death. That's not always simple. Bail reform, I have major issues with bail reform. Not
Basically, what they've done is they've removed bail for misdemeanors and minor and nonviolent felonies, right?
absolutely, yes.
So they can't hold you in jail for that.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I am for bail reform in general. I am just not for it the way that it was done here in New York City. A lot of times, administration takes what's being done in other areas and just applies it to New York. New York is an entire different species than any other state. So when a bail reform was applied to New York, it needed to be tailored for New York, which means that a blanket statement of all misdemeanors does not work in New York because there are some misdemeanors that are at a higher level. Some of them even violent. Some of them as high as like robberies and assaults. I think that the judges need to be able to make a decision on in some of these cases.
Are there others?
I do like the fact that there is more monitoring. It's necessary.
What do you mean by monitoring?
Monitoring of the police, monitoring by, like we have the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which is important for the community to feel like they have somewhere they can go to outside of law enforcement to make a complaint about law enforcement. Things like that are good.
One of the complaints about the CCRB is that, it doesn't have enough teeth, and that even when it recommends discipline, it gets dismissed. And I assume you would think that the city should be somewhat tougher on disciplining police for misbehavior.
When it is necessary, absolutely. I feel that when an officer does something incorrectly, especially if it affects the community, he should be disciplined. He or she should be disciplined.
You have said that, in general, that law enforcement is headed in a new direction. Could you speak on that a little more?
Well, I think for the first time in quite some years, we are going to have a mayor and a police commissioner that are former law enforcement. Now, I can only speak with regards to how it's going to affect law enforcement and the community.
And also a police commissioner who's a woman.
Exactly, who's a woman, which that in itself is a major feat. But what I like about what I'm seeing now is that crime is, I feel, and I hope, crime is going to be addressed properly. We have two people on the same page. So because a lot of times there is a conflict between the police department and the mayor. They have different ideologies towards crime and social interactions and things like that. Now we have everyone on the same page. And we have law enforcement, we have administrators who have been law enforcement officers, who have been through every part of law enforcement and are going to be able to make quality decisions and create strategies that are going to work.
You were a homicide detective for years. I have to say, for all of its faults, the NYPD does appear to be pretty good at solving homicides.
Yes.
They will,
Yes,
they will
yes,
track
we
you
are.
down. They will find you.
Yes.
How does the process of solving homicide cases compare to what we see on television? Well, you know, we so many shows. I watch crime shows and
Yes.
real crime shows and faux crime shows all the time. How does the real job of a homicide, solving a homicide case, compare to what we see on television?
The major obvious difference is the time that it takes to solve
Right,
the case,
right.
obviously.
It's not done within an hour.
It's not done right with commercials. So yes, it takes time, sometimes weeks, sometimes years to solve a case. And there are so many different elements to a case, just like what you see on TV, and so many things that surprise you, so many things that are unusual. It's a very tedious process, but it's very rewarding to get the perpetrator at the end. But it's, there are a few shows that are more realistic, like Law and Order is one of the more realistic shows, and Blue Bloods is another example of a very realistic show to NYPD.
While I give kudos to the NYPD generally for being able to solve murders, you have also had incidents, and there have been a number that have been, and the district attorney's offices are going through cases where people have been incarcerated for years for crimes that they did not commit,
Yes.
due to misconduct by police who lied or by prosecutors who withheld evidence. What's the motivation behind that kind of misconduct?
If that's proven to be true, I would say that it would probably be an officer or a detective who was very interested in closing the case. That is always the goal, and some people feel that it's for gratification for the officer within the department, but a lot of times, at least with the homicide investigators I've worked with, my team, it's for the satisfaction of the family. You want to give them closure and
Yeah.
things like that. But just like many other fields, there are always those that aren't following procedures, aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And as we discussed earlier, when it comes to policing, it affects people, which is very different from like corporate America or something like that.
What's it like being a hostage negotiator?
Oh, it was great. I enjoyed it.
How did you get into that?
I was asked to put an application in, and the sort of work I was doing in homicide and my interview skills and things like that. And I went through the training of hostage negotiation, and I became part of the elite team.
Are there a lot of hostage situations?
Well, actually, a lot of people don't realize the majority of the incidents that we deal with are people committing suicide, people wanting to jump off of a bridge, people taking hostages within their apartment, like possibly their families, and threatening to kill everyone if they don't get what they want. There are things like that. Not your traditional hostage situations that you see on television,
Right.
where someone takes a bank
Right.
and holds everybody hostage. That doesn't happen too. It does happen, but not very often.
Okay. You teach courses on the criminal justice system and criminal justice policy at John Jay. What messages about police and policy and law enforcement are you conveying to your students, or do you want to convey to your students?
Well, I hold pretty open courses when I teach John Jay. And when I say open, is that I mean that I set aside a whole 5 to 10 minutes before the class even begins to discuss anything. I give the students the opportunity to discuss anything, whether it's their love life, whether it's something they saw on the news, whether it's something personal they're going through. And the reason I do that, and very often we get into very heated conversations, and the reason I do that, and I tell them this, is because as important as the academic part of your education is, what is also important is that you learn to be able to accept other people's perspectives without becoming violent or angry. So when we're having a discussion and one person feels the one way, another person feels differently, that conflict is very similar to the conflicts that you're going to deal with out in the street. Of course, it's not going to be those type of issues, but you're going to have these conflicts. And the better you are at dealing with human beings, the better you're going to be prepared. So I give them that. And I tell them, you know, there are so many different positive things about policing, and that with everything negative going on in the world and in policing, now's the best time to get into policing, is what I usually tell them, because you're going to be part of the change, and that is what is important, because there is a major change going on right now in policing.
Okay. So better be part of it than to just complain about what it isn't.
Exactly, exactly.
You have written a book about the pros and cons of a career in law enforcement. What are some of the pros? What are some of the cons?
Well, let me see what I'm willing to give up here. Well, because some of the pros people don't really know about, but let's just say one of the major things that I want to bring out, because it kind of demeans officers, because people think police don't make any money. You make very good money in policing. That's one thing. The other thing is that it's very satisfying. I remember coming into New York from Queens every day to go to work, and I'm driving over the Midtown Tunnel overpass, and I'm looking at the outline and the skyline of New York City, and I'm saying, wow, I'm a detective, a homicide detective, hostage negotiator, NYPD. This is what stories are made of. So the satisfaction of the job, the reward in helping people, being part of the solution, all positives.
Been happy with his work. You
Yes.
don't hear that. You don't hear that.
Yes,
You don't hear about
very
that
happy.
a lot.
And you know, you have issues. The police, one of the biggest issues is that the police department is this big, intertwined organization that sometimes it's hard to get your issues addressed. Sometimes that takes time. Sometimes that takes creating more conflict just to get your situation heard. So, you know, just like any other organizations, there are pluses and negatives.
You've written, I understand, 2 books for young people and one for children. And I have one that you've written for children. Police are part of our community. Tell me what message you're trying to get across. And this is geared to young kids,
Yes,
right?
that is geared for kids like 5 to 10 years old.
Okay. And why did you write it, and what message are you trying to get across?
Well, I wrote that book with all of the negative situations that were going on in policing over the last couple of years. Starting with, well, not starting with, but one of the major ones was George Floyd, the Breonna Taylor, those situations. There was a lot of conversations being had at kitchen tables, in living rooms, family rooms, and it was often negative towards the police, which sometimes, you know, it was necessary because some things were not correct. But what was not being addressed was the fact that the children were there listening, and they're taking this in, and they are sometimes developing fear of the police, because most of the time children love the police. I remember, you know, being a police officer, one of the best, most satisfying things is when a young kid comes up and wants to shake your hand or say hello. I felt like that could be changing because of what's happening. So I wanted to create a book that would change the narrative of policing, give children the pictures and the verbiage that shows them what police are supposed to do, that police are good, that police are supposed to be part of your community. But also, more importantly, I wanted it to be a book that would give parents an opportunity to sit down with their child and discuss some of the issues that are going on, even though they're 5 to 10 years old. Because one of the biggest issues and one of the biggest conflicts that we have when we have police and the community coming together is fear. And that fear often looks like aggression. That fear can sometimes look like someone not following directions. And it is those fears that turn into negative interactions. So if we can stop those fears and have our children realize that the police are regular people just like us. They want to be in the community. They want to come play basketball with you. They want to, be around for Christmas to give out toys and things like that. The police are supposed to be part of the community. And if we can start this at a young age and get the whole mindset to change, of course, we know there's only one side of the equation. The police also have to do their part, which I feel that there's a lot of community policing going on. So that's a positive thing.
And part of your advice to kids is when you see a cop, go up and say hello.
Exactly. Say hello. It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's that simple to just start things off, Imagine a beat cop standing on the corner every day, a son and a mother walking or a daughter walking to the train station, and that same cop is there. They will eventually know his name. Maybe that young child will be able to talk to the officer, and maybe the officer could be involved with, so how'd you do on that test today? And it can be that kind of an interaction, which can make a huge difference in policing.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd like to thank Dr. Alfred Titus, retired New York City Police Department homicide detective and hostage negotiator, and a professor at John Jay College, for joining me today. To learn about our upcoming shows, you can follow us on Twitter at 121 CUNY TV. For the City University of New York and 121, I'm Cheryl McCarthy.